Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we will be reviewing the Ribang Gayo wash process Sumatra from Sweet Bloom. And there's the bag right there. Right, and this is my first full bag review of 2021. There was no need to talk about Sweet Bloom any further. Tons of Sweet Bloom content already on this channel. But let me talk a brief bit about my history with Sumatran coffee, because it's actually quite extensive. So back in the day, my really good friend Brian, shout out to Brian if you're watching, he loves Sumatran coffee and used to give me so many Sumatran coffee samples from all the Sumatran coffees he would order. And while I appreciate the sentiments, I will gladly say that I did not enjoy any of them. I am not the biggest fan of Sumatran coffee. If you look at the counterculture flavor wheel and you see those kind of wild out there, earthy, spicy, vegetal flavors that are very obscure on the flavor wheel, that's what I get a lot of the time from Sumatran coffees. I even had one that I would describe as a soggy mushroom taste, and overall, they've been pretty unpleasant experiences just as a whole. That being said, this is the first time Sweet Bloom ever released a Sumatran coffee, and I've never had a cup of coffee from Sweet Bloom that I disliked. At worst, I would say that a Sweet Bloom coffee was really good, but never something that I disliked. So something would have to give here. Either I would dislike the Sweet Bloom coffee, or I would like a Sumatran coffee, and that made it a very interesting review right here. Let me get the details out of the way real quick. So this one I brewed at 16.67 to 1 through the Chemex at 204 degrees. But we'll talk about it a little further because I don't think that the Chemex was necessarily the best brew method for this coffee. And the roast profile, it's kind of interesting to describe this because it's a light medium for an American coffee roaster. But that being said, this one is a little darker than I think Sweet Bloom typically roasts, mostly because it is a Sumatran coffee. So just keep that in mind on this coffee. Let me take you through what I was getting. So first day 8, very chocolate forward with a bit of spice, and then day 9 it got a little better, some sweeter chocolate with some kind of slight fruit acidity. And then as it cools down a little more, we're looking at day 11, again fruit acidity coming through and chocolate pronounced, and then I was getting a little bit of those spices that I am used to with Sumatran coffee. And that was a bit of a theme with this coffee. It did have some of those spices that weren't abundant or too prominent in this coffee, but they were definitely there. And I'll be honest, day 8 through day 11, I thought it was a good coffee, but nothing spectacular or special, so I started experimenting with the coffee. Day 12, brewed it through the cone filter, much richer, but the deep chocolate taste, it didn't necessarily improve the coffee for me. It was on day 13 when I started making it through a automatic coffee maker that I actually really enjoyed the way that this coffee came out, and that's the way I feel like this coffee came through best, which leads me to believe an AeroPress or a darker brew method, something like an automatic coffee maker, is actually going to make this coffee stand out a little better. Less acidic, and the chocolate notes were coming through, and then I did it again on day 14, which is also when I made the tasting wheel. Rich, deep chocolate and very crisp apple notes. And this final day, today's the 7th, so that would mean this is day 18 of this coffee. Brewed through the Chemex, and I don't think it has the same sort of rich, beautiful chocolate taste it has when I brewed it through that automatic coffee maker, which is just interesting to me. Let me go ahead and put up the tasting wheel right now so you can see what I was getting. And for me, Sweet Bloom coffees always have this nice little bit of sweetness that's common in all of their coffees. I don't think I've ever given their coffee anything lower than a 4, because it's always there for sweetness. Body pretty heavy, chocolate pretty heavy, and let's see here. The spice, probably the highest I put for any coffee there, and it's not to say that it's like spicy like hot sauce spicy, but it has like some spice components and tastes to it. Let's see here what else. The caramel pretty high, and what I want to emphasize about that is the flavor notes they have listed on here are apple, pear, and Milky Way. And I definitely get the apple, I definitely get the pear. They're common throughout this coffee, but that Milky Way characteristic is kind of an interesting one because this is definitely a very chocolatey coffee, but it's a distinct and different chocolate. You could probably prime yourself and convince yourself that you're getting Milky Way chocolate out of this, and I probably did, and it's definitely just different from most chocolate flavor notes you get in coffee overall. It made this coffee stand out quite a bit and very different. One last thing I wanted to add about this coffee is it is spectacular brewed as a cold brew. And I am really impressed as this coffee is kind of cools down and when you make it cold, because that's when I feel like this coffee actually stands out the best. And don't get me wrong, this is pretty good, warm through the Chemex and everything like that. It has some nice components to it, some nice chocolates, the apple pear acidity, it's good. But I feel like when it has cooled down, when you make the coffee as a cold brew, those flavors, especially the chocolate, really pops. It really stands out. And that's who I would suggest this coffee to, is somebody that does enjoy those two things I've mentioned. If you enjoy cold brews, I think this would be really nice as a cold brew. If you enjoy a chocolate tasting cold brew coffee, spectacular for that. And then the other thing is, if you do prefer those kind of methods that bring out a little bit more body in the coffee and bring out a little bit more of the chocolate, so an automatic coffee maker and a AeroPress, I think this is a hit for both of those. And I actually enjoyed this coffee way more than I thought I was going to, so that proves that Sumatran coffee can be really good, and I think Sweet Bloom did a pretty good job with this coffee. But I'm going to leave it at that. If by chance you've tried this coffee, please let me know what you thought. If you've tried Sumatran coffees, please let me know what you think of them, because they are definitely a little different and a little out there. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Ribang Gayo wash process Sumatra from Sweet Bloom. Thank you for watching.